Hello guys, welcome in, and finally I was able to get my sorcerer to 100 and also get most of the gear that I wanted for this build. This is by far one of the best builds I have played as a sorcerer. It's definitely satisfying, and I don't think that many people is using meter out there. I think it's very underrated, yet is one of the most powerful in my opinion. Now I work on different version of this build, so I think this is the closest that I came up, which is almost nearly perfect. Is there room for improvement? Yes, by a lot, not much. So let's get into it. Let's review the skills, gear, and all the stuff that I have in this build at the moment. Alright guys, for the skills, we're not going to be using any basic skills in this build. However, I want to mention that you want to grab Arc Lash at this level instead of Firebolt, because Arc Lash is going to help you on boss encounters where you need to rely on building that stack immediate as soon as possible. So popping the cooldown will stun the enemy for 0.6 seconds, but also this is going to help you to build that stack meter to quickly burn them down. So the reason I don't have it is because I'm working on a different build that actually is gonna use Firebolt. Yeah, you want to have this as enchantment, and you want to replace it over the Firewall enchantment. Basically doesn't matter as much in bosses encounters. Now for our defensive skills, we're gonna be using Flame Shield. This is gonna help you to survive, also get out of the sticky situation, and when you get injured, you're able to get 50% of your missing life thanks to the modifiers, and on top of that, 25 movement speed. Like any other sorcerer's build, you definitely need Frost Nova. Frost Nova is not only one of the best CC in the game, but also the only way to apply vulnerable consistently as a sorcerer at the moment. So we definitely need Frost Nova there. You want to put as much rank as possible. So we're gonna have that there. And then we're gonna have Teleport, which also not only gonna give you some damage reduction and movement, but it's gonna help you to place enemies on one spot and then Frost Nova afterwards. So you want to run dungeons that have high density. This is where this build is gonna shine, because you want to have as much pack of enemy as possible in one place, freeze them in there, and drop mages on them. So keep that in mind, that when you're finding or doing nightmare dungeons, you want to do the ones that have high density. Now for our master skill, we're gonna use Firewall. Firewall is gonna do a lot of things in this build. Not only can have potentially a lot of burn damage, but also it's gonna help you to not only put them on fire faster, it's gonna help you to trigger the modifier for burning enemies on fire. So any damage reduction or damage multiplier is gonna help people that are on fire. It's gonna spread throughout the room. It's also gonna help you to recover thanks for some passes that we have in this build. But also more importantly, it's gonna help you to drop meter as much as possible. You want to have a firewall, and also it's gonna help you to aid some of the damage, because sometimes, me personally, I don't like having just one source of damage. If I can have another, like an aid to help me, or a supplement to my main one, which is gonna be Meteor, then is more than welcome. So that's why we're gonna play with the firewall build, which is fun. However, I felt like it's the only source of damage that you have, so I don't really like those kind of things, because when you really need that burst damage, you're not gonna have it. So Meteor is gonna help us to basically not only draw non-stop, it's gonna do an insane amount of damage, and then we're gonna have Inferno to not only help us to group enemies, especially big pools that you need to burn in as quick as possible. It's gonna help you to do that from range, which is something that is more safe than teleport. So you're able to pretty much ignore damage if you do it from range. It's also gonna help you to manage the resources. You have infinite mana when Inferno is proccing, so you're able to draw as much meter as possible. As for enchantments, you want to have Firewall, like I mentioned before. This is gonna help you to pretty much have a chance of spawning 2 Fireball underneath for 3 seconds. So especially in a room where like events and stuff like that, you're able to put at least 2 Firewalls, and then the build does the rest, because we have different amount of lucky hit. It's gonna just start spreading all over the floor. And then of course Meteor enchantment to have a lucky chance to pretty much drop a random meteor on that enemy. If you see my previous video, pretty much my skill tree haven't changed as much, so I'm just gonna go very briefly on this. Like I mentioned before, you want to grab eyelash instead of fireball just for boss encounters. You're gonna put 2 points in there, you're gonna move on the bottom, and then you're gonna grab pot and warning just to get some sort of resistances, and then one devastation just to complete the requirement to go into the defensive ones. Now, I found that on the defensive ones, having 7 points on Frost Nova and Teleport are pretty much the best balance in terms of cooldown management. So having that, the more, obviously, the better. There's other ways you can get more, especially with the boots. Right now, I'm trying to get rank 4 Teleport to as you can put another Frost Nova. But pretty much 7 and 7 points on both does the job. Then you're gonna have 1 point on flame, and then you're gonna have enhanced flame shield, but you're gonna have shimmering flame shield, which is the one that gives you 50% of your missing life. This is gonna help you to recover when you're injured. And then as far as teleport, you want to have enhanced teleport to decrease the cooldown per enemy hit after 3 seconds, so it's flat cooldown reduction, which is great. And then you're gonna have teleport, shimmering teleport, which is gonna reduce damage reduction for 3 seconds. It's gonna have 1 point on elemental attunement, since we have a lot of critical chance on this build. The critical strike is gonna have a 5% chance to reset any of your defensive skills that are in cooldown. So this could be a Frost Nova, this could be a teleport, this could be a flame shield, and then we're gonna have a glass cannon, which is I really don't have any points here. It's just the chest that I have, which is the unique, grants me that point in there. Moving on here in the conjuration, you're only gonna grab we're gonna grab precision magic to increase our base lucky chance by 15%, and then we're gonna have align elements just to have some damage reduction when you're not hit by a leap up to 40%, and then you're gonna have mana shield, which is gonna also grant you more damage reduction, and then protection to grant basically 30% of your maximum life when you pop a cooldown. So this is really crucial. It's one of the best. I've been saying it. This is one of the best passive mage has, especially that Sorcerer is not known by being the most survivor class. Now on the mastery, we're gonna have as much rank in meter as possible because this is your main soldier damage, and then some ranks on firewall. So this is provided by gear. At least you want to have some fire damage on the firewall, because pretty much like I mentioned before, you want to have an aid, a supplement, where pretty much you're having some trouble killing with meteor. At least there's some other damage sources going on while you finish them off with the burst. You're gonna have inner flames to have 9% increased damage while you're healthy. Pretty much you're healthy most of the time anyway, so that's easy damage. And then the Warrior Blaze Fish also is gonna increase the critical damage of burning enemies. This is gonna be provided by our amulet. And then you want to have Icy Veil to increase our barrier duration by 15%. In terms of modifiers, you want the Enhanced Meteor to have a 30% chance to proc another meteor if you hit 3 or more mobs in one place. So that's just really important to group them up. And then you're gonna have Wizard Meteor to keep in there with Immobilize, which is actually really huge. For Firewall, you want the Enhanced Firewall to increase the damage burning, but you also want to have the Mage Firewall just to continue burning if they leave the firewalls. And thanks to the Snatcher mechanic, this helps a lot. Now for the ultimate scales, you want to have pretty much Inferno all the way up to Supreme Inferno. You want to grab all the 3 points. This is gonna help you a lot, especially the last one, because any skills don't cost, especially Pyromancer skills, don't cost any mana. And then for here, you want Warmth to have some sort of healing when they're burning, and then Endless Fire to have additional damage of enemies that are burning. For our key passive, you want to have Ezra's Ferocity. This is gonna increase your crit damage by 20% when they are healthy, and when they are unhealthy, it's gonna grant 5% crit chance. So if you are able to kill an enemy with a crit, you are able to get both bonus at the same time. And for the stats, guys, we almost have 1,000 intelligence. definitely can push there if I want to, but right now I definitely sacrifice some intelligence over survivability, like armor and stuff like that. We need to have at least 430 willpower, because this is gonna light up one of the Paragon nodes that we have, so it's a must. At least you have 430 in here, and then you want to have this 30 in order to increase our critical strike chance as much as possible. In terms of life, we have up to 11,000, and then our armor is sitting at 6,000 right now. I can definitely increase this a little bit more, but at the moment I'm not getting the drop, so in the meantime this feels good, and you can also enhance this with elixirs and stuff like that. In terms of our offensive stats, we have critical chance up to 41%, and we also have an additional 20% when they are injured, so we're gonna have a total of 60%. This is very crucial, especially with big enemies, because sometimes they have this modifier where they are injured, but at the same time they survive because they're leeching or they are regenerating. So having that extra 20 thanks or one of the aspects is actually really sweet. And then we have crit damage up to 173%, which is actually really huge, and we have vulnerable damage up to 248. Other damage multipliers that I have in this build is gonna be damage versus crowd control, which is sitting at 95%, and then we'll have damage versus stun, which is a whooping 173%, especially when you do that stun. With teleport, it's gonna come really clutch. And then another whooping 193% on damage versus close enemies. Damage versus close enemies is actually the third best damage modifier in the game, so that's actually really huge. We have 217% damage with fire, and then damage with burning 505. Yes, 505. In case that you want to know about damage reduction, we have damage reduction up to 30%, and we also have damage reduction from burning enemies up to 20%, and then damage reduction with barrier 10%. So that's a little survivability there. In terms of utility, we have up to 22% mana cost reduction. For cooldown reduction, we have up to 40%, which is actually really insane. Cooldown reduction is one of the best stats, S tier for sure, especially Sorcerer. And then unlucky chance is sitting at 35%, and definitely want to aim more, but I need to get the rolls drop, especially in the head. I want to put lucky with barrier. Since we have a little barrier uptime, I want to add an additional 15% here. So when I'm doing meteors and teleport, you definitely see the different adding that extra lucky chance percent. Crowd control duration up to 70%. If I want to, I can just add this helmet to add it to pretty much a whooping of 93, but it requires a different gameplay. It just depends really on your preference. This is gonna add more crowd control, but at this point your enemies are gonna start doing unstoppable very often, so having this extra damage will be there. However, I kind of prefer having two extra frost novas for the fact that not only you are able to keep them in place, I found that having 70% it have you less chances of proccing unstoppable, and also if you are burning a big pack of enemies before they go unstoppable, you are able to squeeze another frost nova there to keep them in place. So that's actually really sweet. With all that CC duration, pretty much your frost nova is gonna last up to 5 seconds, which is actually really insane. Your teleport, even though that is not really reflecting here, is gonna last up to almost 6 seconds. And then we have 3.4 for immobilized. Now if I change my helmet to have more, pretty much our frost nova is gonna last almost 6 seconds, which is actually really insane. But keep in mind that I mentioned that, you know, the unstoppable is gonna proc more often. Our immobilize is gonna last almost 4 seconds. So, and then 6 seconds over the teleport. For the head, I really prefer this one. It's gonna have crowd control duration. I think I'm gonna draw crowd control duration over Loki with barrier. So that's the plan right now. I really don't have the role yet. I haven't come close, but that's the goal. I'm gonna have lucky barrier, lucky chance when I have a bear up. I'm gonna try to increase that cooldown duration for 3 more percent, which actually could be really impactful. And then the maximum life and total armor. That's actually really nice. If you want, you can drop crowd control duration over intelligence. That's another option if you wanna increase your damage. And then for our aspects, it's gonna be the double frost nova with the 4% maximum life. And then for the chest, obviously, it's gonna be the Raiming of the Infinite, one of the best in stuff for most of the sorcerer builds. This is gonna grab you not only sweet stats, but also make your teleport extremely useful for grounding stun and grouping the mobs in one place. Now on the gloves, you want to have critical strike, attack speed as much as possible, and lucky hit. And also all stats, just like mentioned, you want to have at least willpower, so you want to have all stats in there. So this glove is actually really sweet. Right now I'm running this aspect, which grants me the critical chance when they are injured and crowd control up to 40% when I'm healthy. So that's one of the reasons why the crowd control is really high. For our pants right now, I have damage reduction close enemies, total armor, intelligence, and 4 ranks on meter. This is one of the best pants that I ever got to drop. And of course, we're gonna slap disobedience in there to get more armor. So pretty much with firewall is gonna stack up quickly to 50%, which is actually insane amount of survivability. Right now on this boot, I'm running Frost Nova, movement speed, intelligent, and run teleport. And then we're gonna have lucky chance by 80% while I have a barrier. For my amulet, I have the Warring Blaze, 3 ranks, and also for mastery, this is gonna increase the nerf for meteor, but also grant you that passive skills without spending a single point. So that's actually really sweet. And then you want to have cooldown reduction and mana cost reduction. That you also can, if you feel comfortable with the mana management, you can add total armor. That's another option that you have there. I would like to have that and see if I can just deal without that sweet mana cost duration, because you want to have the meteor as low as possible. 30 I think is manageable. And then for our rings, definitely insane stats here. We have crit damage, vulnerable damage, damage to close enemies, and crit chance. And also we're gonna have the aspect for getting resources while I start, you know, teleporting, doing any stuns, immobilize, frost nova. So it's constant pretty much resource refund while you're doing CC. And then for a second one, we have lucky chance, crit chance, vulnerable damage, and crit strike damage. We also have the aspect which grants you 25% damage while you have a barrier. And right now, I'm not using a staff as a weapon. You can swap it when you're doing bosses, but the fact that the off tank gives you so much cooldown reduction and some of the stats is insane. So I'd rather take a little less damage over more utility. And I was able to put this aspect here. When I'm standing still, I gain 30% damage. You're gonna stand still a lot, especially when you're doing big pulls. So pretty much that's actually really helpful. Otherwise, if you don't like this aspect, you can try the one that does more damage on vulnerable enemies. And then of course on our dagger, would you want to have a dagger for the fact that you have 30% damage to close enemy on top, and then vulnerable damage, crit damage, damage to close enemies with intelligence in it. And you also want the meteorites aspect, where it grants additional meteors when they fall down, and they do burn damage and also impact damage as well. For the gems, you want to have critical strike chance to vulnerable enemies on both weapons. And that pretty much it for the gear. Now to give you a little demo on CC duration, I'm gonna grab this pack of muff here. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 seconds, guys. And then you can just, you know, pretty much have them there, and you can burn them. And then if I do this, they're gonna die, but you can immobilize there for up to 4 seconds. So pretty much the CC is really insane. Alright guys, for the Paragon board, you want to pretty much on the first glyph, you want to have a depth. This is gonna increase your skill damage and also the size of the area by 20%. Insane glyph for this build. Next, you want to grab Burning Instinct Table. This is gonna increase your fire damage 40% based on your intelligence and critical strike damage. So it's gonna help the firewall to do damage as well, not just on the meteor. Especially when you have very chunky enemies, you want to have another skill that can supplement the damage. So this is really important to have. And then for our second socket, we want to have exploit to gain some vulnerable damage in there. You want to grab as much damage as possible. In the glyphs, as you can see, I was very efficient grabbing the knot of damage. I went here to the left to get the enchantment master, just to make our enchantment 20% stronger. This is gonna help you to proc more firewall and more meteors. And then I'll keep going up here to grab searing heat, pretty much to increase the critical chance up to 15% of your fireball or meteor. So we want to have this in this build. And of course you want to grab all the damage knots of fire damage, even though it's not as powerful as crit damage in all those matter fires. Just 2 damage on your skill. On this third glyph, I have control. This is gonna have damage to crowd control to enemies, sitting up to 95%. But also the second bonus is gonna give you 20% damage to stun or frozen enemies. So that's 20% free damage there. And then here you want to grab Witness. This is the Frigid Fate Paragon board. You want to grab this not only. This is the only thing good on this board. And you want to grab all the vulnerable knots that you've seen here. And then here I ended up doing static surge, but I went all the way down here to grab paralyzing, to grab up to 45% on this not alone. And then that's without even counting the other 3s that you have here. And then our last glyph here, I put territorial, which is gonna give us damage to close enemies, which is sitting up to 73%, but also damage reduction by 10% every time that you are in a close enemy. So pretty much happy. I think I pretty much nailed what I wanted. Can it be optimized? Sure, but right now, is it worth spending the money resetting the whole thing? Probably not. So I'm just gonna stick with this because right now I'm being testing firewall. It's wonderful. So I'm pretty much have 2 builds in one. So I'm gonna be posting that later, and I'm gonna give you some gameplay so you can see how this build is actually performing, especially past 60 tier 9 dungeons. Alright guys, for the dungeon, you want to have a dungeon that it has a lot of density. This is where this build really shines. Otherwise, you get like some random mob here and there. You might find yourself wasting too many resources just to kill that mob. But yeah, basically that's what it is. Like I said, you want to find groups. This is not the best one, but let's see it here. And there you go. No problem. You have to you can stay still, but you also want to keep moving. Let me get this blister here. Nice. So that's basically, as you can see, the damage is there. Now for solo mob, all you want to do just basically just stun them and then kill them. You don't want to spend too much resources on them because you want to grab your frost novas for the big packs. Like for example here, you're gonna need it. There you go, no problem. Have to get out. So oh, he's still floating even though I kind of left frost nova. But yeah, you get the idea. The build is fantastic. I really love this build. I've been trying other builds as well in the meantime. But I think for this is gonna be one of my main builds for content. So here you want to have at least 2. There you go, no problem. And now you want to save for the best. And now that see that it went unstoppable. That's where the other you have to wait a little bit. So if you get unstoppable, just wait a little bit and then engage again. Otherwise it's just gonna go after you. You have to be very careful too how you pull certain pulls. Like I see here, they CC me, so sometimes you need to like be careful when you pull. This is where the double frost nova comes in clutch, because then if you didn't grab the mod the first time, at least you have a second chance to put it vulnerable. So something to keep in mind. Like in this case, you don't want to waste your frost nova. As you can see, you can just burn it down. Okay, this is not a trap. Nice. Oh, he left one. Ah! Okay, we got it. I have to waste that frost nova. I don't want to risk it. I think we're Gucci here. Yeah, see, you have to be careful. But those ballistas, they're really toxic, and they can shoot you even if you don't see them through the walls. Let me see if I can pull it here. Yeah, see. Yeah, you have to be careful, man. This one here, right here in this corner, as you can see, it's just shooting at you. So hopefully those get nerfed. It's just completely overtuned, and sometimes you get shot from those and you don't even see it on your screen. Look, this is a good example. So yeah, when you have bones, you want to search for those ballistas, because the thing about this build, you get very stationary for the most part, and then you're not gonna see certain things shooting at you. Now, something that I want to mention is that it's very important to see this circle here. You want to make sure when, let's say that there's an enemy in the middle of it, you want to make sure that the meteor is inside or the enemy is within that radius. Otherwise, if you get it like here, he might get shot, but he might get shot with the meteorites, not with the meteor itself. So you're gonna be losing some damage. So you want to make sure that your meteors are accurate as possible, to make sure that they get the most amount of damage, because it might be a little misleading when you're not very accurate with your meteors and you feel like, oh, why are you doing so little damage? No, that's the little ones. You want to make sure that the big one is on target, so you get the most DPS out of it. We have a big one here. And because we have so much crowd duration, it's really important for those kind of pulls, because with this build alone, and that's not even counting the other one, if I put the one with extra crowd control duration, you have 5 seconds in the frost nova. You have up to, I believe, almost 4 seconds with your immobilized, and then you have almost 6 seconds with your stun. So you have enough CC to stop doing damage at you, and possibly not necessarily needing another CC to finish them off. It will happen, but at least you have some time to burn them as much as possible. So if they go unstoppable, then you should be all set. Now, something that I want to mention that I don't have on this build, and I'm planning to do, is just to put Art Lash, because unfortunately Firewall is not gonna help you as much. You want to grab that meter as much as possible. Here I kind of like screw it up a little bit, but I wasn't paying attention. I did the snake by accident. Go over here. Yep. He's gonna leave. No. Thankfully, the meteor does have. Here you go. Mine is burning down here. I'm tired of you. Die, please. Thank you. There's 2 things you can do in a boss, okay? And I didn't do it here. I forgot. Oh, no! Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. There's 2 things you can do here. Since I have this for pretty much more clearing, what you can do, I have another one here sitting by where you have the cooldowns. I think this is definitely gonna be better. That's one thing you can do for bosses. You also can, I need to redo this, but since I'm planning doing another build with Firebolt and some other stuff, I'm not gonna waste all like 5 millions, I think it is. Right now I don't have that much gold, but you can put Outlash in order to proc that Saga really quickly every time you put a cooldown. So that's another tip that I can give you. But as you can see, the build is really fun, very bursty, which what I like. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure to follow, subscribe, leave a like, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.